But if we could get the legislature of the federal government to try to get pieces of this economic system, or this engine that runs the printing press, back, because we don't have really an economy anymore, so we just print an economy out, right? I mean, we don't really have an industry here anymore. But if we can get that back to the legislature, again, you can write your congressman. You can affect these things. You can't affect them right now because Ben Bernanke won't answer your email or your letter.
Well, none of that makes any difference. How can we get you elected when you're not black? You're in a district that's been carved out that is corrupt. It's full. The whole thing is corruption. The way the districts are carved out. Your district goes from New York City all the way down to Florida. Is that right? Can you tell us your district?
The district goes from the eastern part of Richmond, snakes down through the I-64 corridor, widens a little bit, at the beginning, narrows down, dips below Williamsburg, comes back up, goes down the 64 corridor, connects to part of Hampton, connects to part of Newport News, skips out into the water somewhere because now the line disappears, goes into Norfolk and takes up most of Portsmouth.
How do you get elected? How can we help?
Well, the only way
I would say that I actually don't think, and I know this is going to sound funny, I don't think race matters in this election. I'm going to make that statement, and I'm going to tell you why. Because when I talk to people in the minorities communities, we have a rare opportunity where your concerns right now about the value of your dollar, your concerns about the bailouts, your concerns about the enforcement of your rights to have a government that is protecting you instead of extorting you. Right now, it may be one of the more rare times of history, your concerns parallel theirs. And no successful movement in the history of mankind has ever succeeded without the poor and the middle class working together. You can measure every movement, and if one of those two were doing their own thing, that movement failed. A movement cannot succeed without the poor and the middle class working together. And right now, the middle class's concerns and focus is the same as the poor. And I think this is a golden opportunity, and it should be taken, of course, full advantage of, because when this phony baloney house of cards finally begins to tumble, we need to have people out there that are speaking and communicating about these ideas so that we know where to pick up the pieces. Because right now, with the debt being, they say 12 trillion, when you look at how much the government actually owes, it's more like 67 trillion. When you look at the system, and you see, they say 9.6% unemployment, when actually the U6 number, that's the one that people that fall out of the U3 unemployment dole, when they fall off of that, they are still unemployed. They're just not counted by the system, and that number is closer to, depending on who you talk to, 16 to 20%. Okay? That system cannot be maintained. Something has to give. The government cuts a program or cuts off some of these financial institutions, there's going to be all sorts of congressmen that lose their contributions. If they don't cut them out, this country's not going to have a dollar worth anything. Something's got to give, and it's going to give somewhere within the next few years. We all know that. We can smell it. We can see it. We know it's happening. So when you say, how can you help me? Get out there. Speak to others about the campaign. Speak not only about, and I don't want you to go out there and say, by the way, James Quigley is running, and let me tell you what he believes in. Talk about, this is what's happening to our country, and let me tell you about a candidate who believes in these ideas.
Or Bobby Scott standing there watching it happen.
Bobby, well, actually, I believe, sir, that you have a few hundred people all sitting in D.C. sitting there watching it happen.
I understand, but you can't run against a couple hundred people. You're running against one.
Right. But I'm actually running for a seat.
Right. Don't do a Scott Brown on me.
When T.W. Taylor ran in the Petersburg area, he ran against a guy, I forget who it was, but the guy, all he did is counter-react his whole campaign. T.W. Taylor spent $40 million of his own money running. And all the guy did was go through that same area the last couple of weeks before the election and say, now, y'all know how to vote. Y'all know how to vote. But what he's basically saying is, all the black people, you have to vote Democratic. You know what you're supposed to do. They all fall in line, they all do it. How are you going to overcome that?
I'm knocking on doors and I'm going to community groups, and to tell you the truth, I'm seeing people that are very, very unhappy with their government right now in those communities. I wouldn't say that if I didn't believe it.
Good.
I got to tell you that they are. It's amazing, actually, the distrust that the people on this part of the district have of the government matches the distrust that that portion of the district over in Newport News and Hampton and some of the other areas that we spoke to recently in the poorer parts of the district have the same level of distrust. Maybe it's another program versus maybe a program that people here are concerned about, but no one trusts the people in charge right now. So what you can do to help me is, first of all, I'm going to go ahead and, hey, I got a camera, so I'm going to go ahead and do the plug. There's a campaign, we're taking campaign donations for checks right now. We're trying to put up a website. It's called James Quigley for Congress. That's the campaign. That's where to put the checks to right now. I'll try to talk to people about an address and stuff like that later, because right now we're still in the middle of getting a P.O. box and things like that. So we're going to try to put that on the website also. Now, that's when it comes to money. Now, why is money important in a race? Let's talk about that instead, though. Money is important for a race because it buys you assistance, it buys you signs, it buys you certain things. So if people are not comfortable giving money, that's great, because I'm not really comfortable taking money. But if you can offset money with volunteerism, then you do the same thing that the money does. And what I mean by it is, you don't have to give me $20 so I can go ahead and buy signs. But if you want to go ahead and buy some poster board and write some signs and put them, basically, get in contact with me, and we got to follow the legalities of it. But, get it, and I think we have to put like something on the bottom, some disclaimer or something. But if we do that, you're spending your own $20 however you want, and we're having the same effect. You don't have to give money to a candidate for them to win. Volunteerism can replace money, and I firmly believe that. And not only that, but if you put your time out there, you're going to get more face time. I think it's more powerful than me just spending money on resources. I'd rather have people than resources. I'd rather have people and material things helping me with this at this point. Yes, sir.
Okay, going back, I'm not sure I can remember my whole question. Some of the basis, including some of the basic, if I'm following you, is that you believe the money being printed by the government is causing an effect. I think you're appreciating unemployment is causing an effect.
When the government prints, I'm sorry.
Let me.
Yes, sir.
Part of it is that if we switch the control to a representative who won't respond to your phone calls, Poppy, and so forth, you may or may not, we'll have to find a way to make you accountable what he has done. But if we switch the control from a person who we cannot call to a legislator that we can, are you seeing that as the key function, as the key to solving the problem, or just a part of an overall? Is this the one key that you're seeing, or keystone that this group will be able to identify with, and there are a couple other keystones that need to be effective also?
Are you talking about my accessibility?
No, well, that will be your accountability. I'm concerned more with you. You're seeing the problem, you're trying to identify it for us and tell us this is what you believe needs to be done.